Hello, welcome to the channel Why Stories. Enjoy watching.
Is it even possible for the dearest person to be a traitor? It can't be, it shouldn't be. Martina looked out the window, tears streaming down her cheeks. Her mother took her to this place 6 months ago. Martina was only 7, and she naively waited for her mother, who had promised to pick her up in a few days. But time passed, and her mother didn't come. Maybe something happened to her, that's why she doesn't come. The girl tried to find excuses. The girls, who shared a room with Martina, told her right away that mom wouldn't come back. Because this is an orphanage and nobody brings their kids here for just a couple of days. But Martina believed and waited. She waited a year, she waited 3 years, she waited until the last day, until she left the orphanage. She hoped her mother would come back for her. And only when she graduated from the orphanage did she find out that she was in another city, 150 kilometers away from where she lived before. Everything became clear to her now. Her mother wasn't going to come back for her, she abandoned her. And the realization of that hurt. There was only one question that bothered the girl: why? She had been quiet, calm, and obedient. Why did her mother leave her in a strange place? What could a little girl do wrong? They had their own apartment, and her mother worked and made good money. They always had everything they needed, so why? Martina really wanted to find her mother and ask her that question, and then she decided to do things differently. First, she should get an education, get a good job, and then come to her mother as a successful and wealthy person. To make her feel ashamed and hurt, just as it hurt a little girl who was betrayed by her dearest person. Martina was a clever girl, she was doing well in her studies. And many teachers told her she had a bright and successful future. So she managed to prepare for the entrance exams and enter one of the best universities in the city. She dreamed of becoming a designer and made every effort to get a good education. Upon graduation, Martina was invited to a well-known design bureau where she interned twice while she was a student. And life started to flow in a completely different way. Martina worked on interesting projects, which she successfully implemented. She didn't have many friends, but she did make friends with her colleague Purita. Although even she could not be called a real friend, they just communicated. But still, there was one very close person in Martina's life, Florencio. They met at the orphanage. Martina was 11 at the time and Florencio was 13. He came to the orphanage at an age when it is most difficult to get used to another environment. One day, the older boys surrounded Florencio, who was a loner and did not want to communicate with anyone. Martina saw this scene and came to help the strange boy. 5 against 1. What has he done to you? The girl said menacingly and bravely. Get out of here, kid, the older boys reacted immediately, but Martina was not frightened and calmly replied. If you don't leave him alone, I'll call Carlos Rios. The boys turned around and ran away. Carlos Rios was the physical education teacher at the orphanage. He was strict and fair. He never let the younger ones get hurt, and everyone knew that. That's why they were so frightened by Martina's words. Martina walked up to Florencio. Hey, are you okay? Did they hurt you? She asked carefully. No, I'm okay. Thank you. He held out his hand. My name is Florencio. And I'm Martina. You're new here, right? Yes, I came here a week ago. I don't want to stay here. My grandmother will pick me up soon. Are you sure? Martina asked incredulously. You know, adults do not always keep their promises. I live with my grandmother, but she was hospitalized and they took me here. As soon as she gets better, she'll take me home. Ah, that's great, the girl said with a hint of envy. My mother also promised me that she would take me home soon. But I've been waiting for 4 years, and she doesn't come. Maybe something happened to her? Florencio said maturely and rationally. I don't know, it would be better if that was the case than if she lied to me and abandoned me. Martina sighed. I'll find her when I grow up and ask her about it. I don't even remember my mom. She and my dad died in a car accident when I was 2 years old. My grandmother adopted me. We don't have anyone else. It's so sad. I never had a daddy. My mother and I lived alone, then Gustavo came and my mother spent all her time with him. But I wouldn't be offended, even if she ignored me all the time, if only I lived at home, Martina said with tears in her eyes. I can't stand it here, I'm sick of it. Let's stick together, Florencio suddenly suggested. It would be more fun together. Sounds great, Martina said happily. And from that day on they were really always together, except during classes and at night. Florencio learned to defend himself and his friend, because many people were jealous of their friendship and tried to tear them apart, but they defended their friendship, even though sometimes it was difficult. Florencio fought with the boys over Martina, Martina fought with the girls. But eventually everyone left them alone. Carlos Rios intervened. The difficulties began when Florencio entered college and left the orphanage. His grandmother never came back for him because she died in the hospital. The teenager took it very hard, and if it hadn't been for Martina, nobody knows how he would have coped with such a situation. The 2 years Martina survived at the orphanage without Florencio were the hardest. She did not want to communicate with anyone, isolated herself, and waited impatiently for him to come and visit her. Florencio was only allowed to visit Martina on weekends, so the girl lived from Saturday to Saturday. Finally, she turned 18 and left the orphanage. By happy coincidence, Martina's apartment was next door to Florencio's and they saw each other almost every day. At first, Martina had a hard time adapting to her new independent life and Florencio helped and supported her. Then there was university and a new interesting job, but Martina, despite her busy schedule, always found time for her friend. She even started to cook for him. Florencio worked for a construction company because he was an architect. It was so surprising that the young people turned out to be very similar even in their choice of profession. Today is Martina's 25th anniversary. In the evening, she and Florencio planned to go to her favorite restaurant. It's good that today is a day off, so I can get some sleep and take my time to get ready for dinner, Martina thought as she lay on the bed. She was in a very good mood, and even though she didn't like her birthdays, for some reason she felt especially happy today. The phone rang. "Good afternoon, Martina Castro," said a strange woman's voice. "Hello," Martina answered calmly. She wasn't afraid of unfamiliar phone numbers because sometimes clients would call even on weekends. Aphrodite Beauty Salon congratulates you on your anniversary and invites you to the beauty treatments. We offer you a subscription for 1 month. You can use the services of our salon during this period completely free of charge, whatever service you choose. Wow, thank you so much. I did not know you had such an option. Martina was surprised. She has been a regular client for 2 years and had never heard anything like this. This option is only available to our VIP clients, and you are one of them. We are waiting for you at any time that is convenient for you. Great gift. Can I come today? I need a manicure and a haircut, she added after a while, and a makeup. Yes, sure. What time would be good? 3 p.m. Great, we'll wait for you at 3 p.m. Have a good day. What a gift, what a great way to start the day, a happy Martina thought. And then she started to get nonstop calls from her colleagues who congratulated her. Martina couldn't make it to the bathroom to wash her face and take a shower. The phone would not stop ringing. Purita called to wish her a happy birthday. Martina was pleasantly surprised by this attention. But what surprised her the most was the call from the CEO. Martina, congratulations on your anniversary. I wish you health, inexhaustible energy, creative success, a lot of innovative solutions, and a true woman's happiness. Since you are one of the best employees of our company, the management and my person decided to reward you with a 1-week trip to the sea. The tour is for 2 people, so you can invite someone you wouldn't want to be away from for so long. The CEO said mysteriously. Thank you so much. I don't know how to thank you. But my vacation is only 3 months away. Oh, come on, it's no big deal. I'll let you take a week off. Your flight leaves in 3 days. You can make it. Have a nice evening." Martina thanked the CEO once again and disconnected. What a day. I've never had a birthday like this before. Martina was already in the bathroom when suddenly the doorbell rang. If there's any more surprises, I'll faint with happiness, she smiled, put on her robe, and went to open the door. The delivery man stood on the threshold with a huge bouquet of roses. "Martina Castro?" he asked politely. "Yes, it's me. Flowers for you, please sign here." Martina signed the piece of paper and took the bouquet. 25 roses with a delicate, pleasant scent. There was a small card in the middle of the bouquet. Martina pulled it out and read, "Martina, my sweet little girl. Happy birthday to you. See you tonight." Who else could send me flowers? Only Florencio, Martina said with a smile. She put the roses in a vase and went to the bathroom. After taking a shower and drinking coffee, Martina decided to choose an outfit for the dinner. She moved one rack after another, but she didn't like any of it. "I had only 2 dresses and 1 skirt for the whole year at the orphanage," Martina smiled, "and it was easier to choose. I should get something new because today is such an unusual birthday." Martina got dressed, called a cab, and went shopping. Then she visited a salon and got her nails, hair, and makeup done. All that was left was to change, and then they could go to dinner. She and Florencio arranged to meet at a restaurant. Martina knew her childhood friend well, and she understood that Florencio was probably preparing a surprise for her, but Martina had no idea what it would be, despite her creative imagination. She also took a cab to the restaurant. She didn't have a driver's license or a car yet. On the way to the restaurant, Martina saw a black limousine. Someone was probably having a party tonight, too. "Oh, I wouldn't mind riding in one of those limousines," Martina thought dreamily. She paid for the ride and confidently walked into the restaurant. There were flowers on all the tables and balloons of different colors under the ceiling, all saying happy birthday. Martina looked at this beauty with envy. Once, as a child, she had dreamed of such a celebration. "Oh, someone is lucky today. They arranged such a great celebration. We shouldn't have chosen this restaurant. Someone is having a party here. It's not convenient to disturb people." She didn't finish her thought, because Florencio in a dark blue suit with a huge bouquet in his hands appeared from nowhere. "My dear Marty," he began solemnly and loudly. "Quiet, don't be so loud." Martina tried to calm Marty down. "I wish you a happy birthday." Florencio continued, ignoring her comment. "I wish you true female happiness, lots of love, prosperity, and the fulfillment of your most cherished desires. One of them I have already fulfilled. It's all for you." He spread his hands to the sides, showing that the restaurant now belongs to Martina. "I remember your childhood dream about balloons, and now it came true. I'm sorry, I couldn't do it before. I couldn't afford it. But I can do a lot now." The tears were pouring down her cheeks, and Martina couldn't control her emotions. "Florencio, did you do this for me?" Martina asked, choking back tears. "Well, of course, it's for you. You are the most precious person in the world." "Thank you, my dear. It is the best present ever." Martina hugged Florencio and kissed him unexpectedly. "No, it's not a present yet. It's just a decoration. Let's sit down for now. The present will come a little later." "There will be a present too?" Martina was surprised. "I'm already enormously happy." The waiter came over and poured champagne into the glasses. "Cheers to you, dear birthday girl." "Cheers to you, my Florencio, my best friend ever." After they had a sip of champagne and sat down at the table, Florencio discreetly waved somewhere to the side, and the waiter came up again. He had a medium-sized box in his hands, wrapped in a festive wrapping with a bow. Florencio took the box and handed it to Martina. "This is your present. Please open it now." Martina unpacked it eagerly, like a child. She couldn't wait to get to the present. Finally, she saw the long box that usually contains chains or bracelets. She looked at Florencio and smiled, then opened the box. There was a beautiful gold bracelet in it and a ring on it. Martina looked at Florencio in surprise. It didn't look like ordinary jewelry. She wanted to ask something, but Florencio was ahead of her. "Marty, my darling, there is no one closer and dearer to me than you. You are the best person in the universe. I love you, marry me." It was good that Martina continued to seat, or she would have surely fallen from surprise. "Florencio, do you really want it?" "I really do." "Do you?" "Me too." "Is that a yes?" "Yes." "Yay!" She said yes. Florencio shouted to the entire restaurant, and the restaurant staff erupted in applause. Florencio picked Martina up in his arms and whirled her around the room. The music turned on, and they started dancing. Martina was happy. She had always loved Florencio. And if before she thought it was sisterly love, she realized with each passing year that she was wrong, but she was afraid to tell him. Florencio didn't show the signs of attention that guys usually show to girls. That was why Martina was sure they were just friends, and she didn't want to ruin their friendship with her confession. The paradox was that Florencio thought the same way. He felt that Martina treated him only as a friend, and he was afraid of losing her, so he hid his feelings. That was what they were talking about now, sitting at the table and laughing out loud at their indecision and stupidity. "We've lost so much time," Florencio noted sadly. "Yeah, that's because we have to be honest and sincere," Martina smiled. "Let's never hide anything from each other again, okay?" "Okay." After dinner, when the couple left the restaurant, the same black limousine pulled up to the entrance. "I can't believe my eyes. A black limousine? This has been my dream since childhood." Martina was surprised for the umpteenth time that day. "Yes, another dream comes true now." Florencio put his arm around her waist and led her to the car. They drove around the city for about 2 hours, and then they went to Martina's home. Their first and most desired night of love awaited them, which they had secretly dreamed of for so long. 3 days later they left on vacation. They spent the whole week relaxing and enjoying each other. It was as if they had just met. The week flew by unnoticed. When they returned home the very next day, they registered their marriage. The wedding was scheduled for the day of their first meeting at the orphanage, the 9th of September. And the date was beautiful and memorable, 909. For the first time in her life, Martina was really happy. She was getting ready for the most important event in her life. They had very few guests, some people from Martina and Florencio's work, Martina's neighbor and her husband, and Carlos Rios, the only person from the orphanage that they had kept in touch with until now. The wedding was celebrated at their favorite restaurant. There weren't many guests, but the party was fun. After the wedding, Martina moved in with Florencio. The newlyweds decided not to go on a wedding trip yet and to postpone the trip for next year. Family life was calm, without quarrels and scandals, with complete mutual understanding. Sometimes Martina thought it wasn't real, that everything was too good, they had nothing to quarrel about, they knew each other so well. So a year went by. They rented out Martina's apartment and saved money from their salaries. They had a dream of starting their own design agency where they would develop projects from scratch. So they took a risk. Florencio took care of the calculations and projects for houses from foundation to roof, while Martina developed design projects inside the house. At first, it was difficult, the lack of clients scared them, but the guys waited patiently for their time. And their time has come. A very famous man asked the agency to redesign his parents' country house. The house needed restoration and total reconstruction. The husband and wife set to work, and a week later their project was approved. Suddenly, Florencio had an idea. "Look, Marty, we can implement our own projects. We need to find a construction team who will cooperate with us and start. What do you think?" "That's a great idea, let's give it a try." While they were looking for qualified construction workers, word of mouth was spreading through the city about the talented young people working at the Design of the Future agency. Florencio managed to find 2 teams of multifunctional workers who were ready to cooperate on a permanent basis, and they started their first project. The guys developed projects and implemented them themselves. In 6 years, their bureau developed into a fairly good construction company with its own office of architects and designers. The husband and wife were happy. The only thing that had been upsetting Martina lately was that she had never been able to get pregnant. Florencio told her that they still had a long way to go, that her age would allow her to spend a couple more years developing her business, and then she would be able to take a break from business and think about children. Martina agreed with her husband, but she really wanted to have a baby as soon as possible. She even underwent a checkup to make sure there was nothing wrong with her. The doctor reassured her and said that she could have children and just had to wait, all in good time. Another year passed, but the situation had not changed, and Martina began to worry, urging Florencio to undergo examinations as well. "Darling, please, for the sake of me and my peace of mind, take the tests." "Marty, but this is nonsense. We can have children, we can, it's just not the time yet." "Is it a problem for you?" She took offense at her husband. "It's not a problem for me. I just don't understand why you have to make it worse. The doctor told you, all in good time." "Well, she told it to me, not to you, you haven't been tested." "Okay, let's go to your doctor on Wednesday and do whatever you want." Martina walked over to her husband and put her arm around his shoulders. "Thank you, it's really important to me." "Okay, deal. And now tell me, where are we going to celebrate your birthday?" "I don't know. Honestly, I don't really feel like celebrating my birthday." "What do you mean?" Florencio was surprised. "Can't we just go somewhere for a couple of days, get some rest, have a change of scenery? I think I'm tired." "It's no wonder, we've been working a lot lately," Florencio agreed. "I'm tired too. Let's celebrate your birthday and then take a trip for a week. That's what we've been wanting to do for a long time. What do you think?" "I'd love to." Martina immediately agreed. The birthday was a few days away, but neither Martina nor Florencio had any idea what would happen the night before. After work, Martina had to go to the mall to pick up a dress that she had ordered from a catalog. Florencio persuaded Martina to invite the work team to a restaurant to relax and have some fun, especially since the occasion was a birthday party. The entire company team loved and respected Martina. She was good-natured, caring, and fair, which is why they called her our Mommy Marty. Martina walked into Florencio's office. "Should I wait for you? I have to pick up my dress." "Honey, 5 minutes, and then we can go. I know about the dress. Then I'll wait for you in the car." "All right." Martina went down to the parking lot. She was in a very good mood. Florencio's tests were fine, and he could have a baby, too. They had even been tested for compatibility, and it was perfect. "We just have to wait a little while," Martina reassured herself. She looked around and waited patiently for her husband. It had been 15 minutes, and he was still not there. Florencio had such a problem, he didn't know how to plan and manage time accurately and was often late, not much, 5 to 10 minutes, but it happened all the time. He even set reminders of business meetings half an hour earlier so he wouldn't be late. "Will you ever learn to be on time?" Martina smiled as she noticed her husband walking. "It's my flaw, I can't help it. I hope it's not critical. You're not going to leave me because of that, are you?" He joked, hugged, and kissed his wife. "Nonsense, why should I leave you?" "Okay, let's go, or we'll really be late." They made it to the mall in time. Martina tried on the dress and was very happy. The chosen model perfectly highlighted the curves of her body. Even though recently she got a few extra kilos, the well-chosen style of the dress perfectly hit it. Happy, she got in the car and put the bag with the dress on the back seat. Let's have dinner somewhere, Florencio suggested. Sounds great. I don't feel like cooking tonight, Martina agreed. You read my mind. Where should we go? Let's go to an Italian pizzeria. I really want pizza. Perfect, Florencio said, and they drove to dinner. On the way, they discussed the places they would like to go. Florencio had once traveled to a small northern town with beautiful scenery. He knew a little about the local sights. Martina, on the other hand, had only dreamed of visiting this magnificent region for the time being. You can't even imagine how beautiful it is there, Florencio said. You'll love it. I've been trying to persuade you to go there before, but you refused. I refused because there was so much work to do, you know. And now we can afford this trip, both in terms of time and finances. Oh, I can't wait for this trip. It's going to be he didn't finish. A bright light and a hard hit interrupted his words. Florencio didn't even realize what had happened. He opened his eyes. There were hospital walls all around, and a man of about 45 with a plastered leg lay on the bed next to him. Excuse me, where are we? He said faintly. Oh, you're awake, his roommate smiled. We are in the hospital, brother, in the hospital. And where is my wife? I don't know anything about your wife. But don't worry, the doctor will tell you everything. He reached the button to call the hospital staff. A minute later, a nurse came rushing into the room. When she saw that Florencio had regained consciousness, she ran out of the room screaming, "He's awake! Call Dr. Valverde." After another couple of minutes, the doctor entered the room and leaned over to Florencio. "Do you remember your name?" he asked loudly. "Of course, Florencio. And don't shout like that, please, I have a terrible headache." "Do you remember your last name?" "Doctor, I'm not an idiot, of course, I remember, Santoro is my last name. Tell me, where's my wife? Is she okay? What happened? I don't remember." "You see, and you say you remember everything. You got into an accident. Your wife is in the next room, she's alive, don't worry." Florencio breathed a sigh of relief, but he didn't like the doctor's look. "She's alive, but what is wrong?" "Her injury is more serious than yours. The impact was on the side of the car where your wife was sitting." "Can you be more specific? Is she going to live?" "Yes, don't worry about it. It's just that the treatment will take a long time." "Well, thank God, then it's okay. Don't think about anything, you need some rest. Please don't get up today so you don't hurt yourself. But tomorrow you can see your wife." "Wait, what's the date today?" "April 20th. It's her birthday. Doctor, please let me see her for a minute." The doctor lowered his eyes and turned away. "Is something wrong?" "She's still unconscious. There's no point in your visiting. I'm sorry." "No, you don't understand. She needs me now more than ever. She'll hear my voice and wake up. We've been together since the orphanage. We have no one else but each other. Please, let me see her." Florencio almost cried with despair. The heart of the nurse, who was standing next to the doctor, couldn't stand it. "Gustavo Valverde, can I take him in the wheelchair? Just for 5 minutes, I promise. What if she will really hear him and wake up?" "Don't look at me like that. I'm not a beast, I have feelings too." "Okay, but only for 5 minutes," the doctor said sternly and left. Florencio looked at the nurse with gratitude. "Thank you so much for your support." "You're welcome. Your spouse is lucky to have such a wonderful husband. Not everyone would try so hard. Believe me, I know what I'm talking about. I've seen a lot in my years here. I love her very much." "I can see that," smiled the nurse. "Have some rest for now. I'll come and get you in half an hour." "I'll be waiting." Florencio looked at his roommate and then out the window and thought, how ironic. My parents died in an accident, and I had an accident, but at least I'm alive. More importantly, Marty is alive. When the nurse came in, Florencio was already sitting on the edge of the bed. "You're so fast," she was surprised. "Please be careful, you have a concussion, not severe, but still. And a knee injury." Florencio paid attention to his leg only after these words. It was tightly bandaged. "They must have injected a lot of painkillers since I can't feel it at all," he thought, and said aloud, "Let's go to Martina's." He got in the wheelchair, and they left the room. Martina's room was one door away from his. The nurse opened the door and pushed the wheelchair into the room. Martina was the only person there. They moved closer, and Florencio was able to see his wife. A huge bruise on her cheek and shoulder, her arm in a cast, tubes sticking out of her mouth, an ugly sight, especially when you look at a loved one. "Tell me, Maria, how is she?" He had already read the nurse's name on her name tag. "What you see is minor, it'll heal in a couple of weeks. But your wife has a spinal injury. The doctors are deciding what to do now. And she needs to wake up, that's the most important thing right now." What Florencio heard made him feel sick. "What do you mean, a spinal injury? Why didn't the doctor say anything about it? And what did it all mean? Is Martina disabled or something? Tell me, is it possible to help her, or will she become disabled?" Florencio asked hopefully, but obviously, he did not hear the answer he wanted. "No one can tell you yet. They're going to do another MRI today. Our head neurosurgeon is coming. He'll be here even though he's on vacation. He'll be the one to make the final diagnosis and handle your wife's treatment. But she'll need several surgeries on her spine. That's for sure." She paused for a moment and then continued, "You have to be patient. It'll take a long time for her to get better." "I understand. Thank you for telling me the truth. The main thing is that she's alive. We'll handle the rest." "God willing," Maria said quietly. "I'll leave you alone for 5 minutes, then I'll take you back. Please, don't move without me." "All right. Thank you again." Maria left, and Florencio remained sitting in the wheelchair next to Martina and tried to figure out what to do and what would happen next. He took his wife by the hand and began to talk to her. "Marty, my dear, happy birthday. Today is such a day, you have to wake up, you have to. I love you and I can't live without you, you know that very well. We will definitely get through this. The main thing is to wake up and tell me that you love me. Everything else will be all right." He stopped talking and looked up. "I hope so." Suddenly he felt Martina squeeze his fingers. It was at that moment that Maria entered. "Maria, she squeezed my hand," Florencio said excitedly. "Are you sure?" The nurse was surprised. "You could have imagined it because you wanted very much." At that moment they both heard a quiet sound that Martina made. Maria quickly rushed out of the room. In a minute there were 3 doctors and 2 nurses in the room. Florencio was taken back to his room and asked to wait patiently. It was the longest half hour of his life. The man felt as if his heart was beating so loudly that it could be heard even in the hallway. Gustavo Valverde walked in. "You were right, Florencio, your presence worked." Martina came to her senses. The doctor saw that Florencio wanted to ask something, but he raised his hand and stopped him. "Wait, let me finish. Your wife has a serious spinal injury. We're taking her for an MRI in a couple of hours. Our neurosurgeon will be here, and we'll decide what to do next. But I'll be honest with you, it's a very complicated situation." The doctor stopped talking, and Florencio tried to cope with the emotions to ask the main question. "Tell me honestly, is she going to walk?" "I don't know, honestly. Let's wait for the results of all the tests, then I'll tell you what to expect." He sat down on the edge of the bed and looked intently at Florencio. "And now you tell me honestly. Do you love your wife? Are you willing to fight for her, together with her? This is a very important thing." "I love my wife, and I will be with her, no matter what the verdict is," Florencio said confidently. "I believe you. Your wife is lucky." Gustavo Valverde tapped Florencio on the shoulder. Be strong, it won't be easy. The doctor left the room, and Florencio was alone with his thoughts. Difficulties had never frightened this young man, but now he was afraid of something else. He was afraid of losing his dearest person. That fear bound his whole body. It rolled in and out, and at one point Florencio even thought he was suffocating. He had never been so scared in his life as he was now. I have to pull myself together. I can't let Marty see me in this condition. On the contrary, I have to show her that I believe in her, that I believe she can go through this because I will always be there for her. I need to calm down and wait for the neurosurgeon's report. Maybe it's not as bad as they say. But reality turned out to be scarier than Florencio expected. In the evening, Maria came into the room. The expression on her face was very tense. She stood near the door and looked at Florencio. "Speak, for God's sake, don't be silent, it's even worse," he asked. "I have bad news. Your wife is paralyzed in her lower extremities. She has spinal cord damage and nerve endings pinched in 6 sites. She'll need a very complicated surgery, but there's no guarantee." She stopped talking and lowered her head. "There's a chance your wife will never walk again. I'm sorry." If he had been hit on the head with something heavy now, the shock would not have been as bad as the shock of what he had heard. Tears flowed from Florencio's eyes. He didn't even expect it himself. The last time he had cried at the orphanage was when he had another fight over Martina, but now it hurt so much that he just couldn't stop crying. Florencio felt like a wounded animal, trapped in a cage. The next day he was allowed to visit Martina. He tried to pull himself together and get his thoughts to be able to cheer Martine up, but nothing worked. Martina could always read Florencio's mood in his eyes and facial expressions. But he could not avoid going to her. The nurse took Florencio to her room and left him alone. Martina looked at her husband with her eyes full of tears. She already knew everything. "Hi, Marty," Florencio began and then stopped. He didn't really know what was appropriate to ask and what wasn't. "Hello," Martina said very quietly and turned away. He pulled up to the bed and took his wife's hand. "Hey, look at me. I'm with you. We're together, we're going to handle this." He tried to cheer her up, but he didn't really believe his own words. "Do you really think this is something we can handle?" Martina asked a question and looked at her husband questioningly. "Of course," Florencio answered almost confidently. "You know, I heard that expression a long time ago. If you want to live, medicine has no power. You want to live, don't you? You're not going to leave me, right?" Martina smiled sadly and turned away again. "You know," she said, looking up at the ceiling, "it would be right for you to divorce me. I don't want to torture you. I don't want you to see how bad I feel. I don't want anything at all." "Marty, you're talking nonsense. I'm not going to divorce you. Don't ever mention that again. That's the first thing. Secondly, we have enough money to make your life comfortable, even if you—" He hesitated, not knowing how much Martina was informed about her condition and prospects. "Well, in case you have to be in a wheelchair for a while." "For a while?" Martina suddenly became angry. "For a while? I'll be in this wheelchair for the rest of my life. And don't pretend you haven't been told that. You know very well that I hate being miserable. I hate it when people look at me with pity. I don't need that. I need your love. But you can't love a cripple, and don't try to tell me I'm wrong." Florencio even got offended. "So you're saying that if I were you, you'd leave me and divorce me?" Martina turned and looked at her husband intently. "Of course not." "Then why do you think I'm such a bastard?" She thought for a moment. "Because it's different with men." It was the only thing Martina could think of. "Who told you such nonsense? Do you mean men can't really love? Can't take care of the people they love? That all the men are traitors?" Florencio got angry. "That's not what I meant. It's just that men have certain needs, and they rarely stay faithful to one woman for a long time. Stop talking nonsense. And don't make decisions for me. Yes, life is not going to be like it used to be. So what? We'll try something different. What about the baby? What about the baby? There's surrogacy, we can adopt a baby. It's an issue that can be solved, too. So you're ready to continue to be with me, despite my problems? Tears came out of Martina's eyes. Of course, silly girl. I don't understand how you could think that I would betray you. And remember, together we'll make it work. A week later, Martina had her first surgery. The results were not what the doctors had planned. They decided to do another one in 2 weeks, then another one. Within a year, Martina had 6 surgeries. There were positive results. She regained feeling in her legs, she could even move them a little, but there was no full recovery and no prognosis for it either. During Martina's last checkup with the neurosurgeon, they found a tumor on her spine, and that was the last straw for her. I don't want any more surgery. I've been living in the hospital for over a year. I'm sick of it, I want to go home. But you have to be examined, we need to know what kind of tumor it is, the doctor objected. Do you hear me? I don't want anything else, I want to go home. Apparently, the universe decided that it was time for me to go to the other world, so I have one problem after another. That's the way it has to be. That's it, this conversation is over, Martina summed up. She called Florencio. Florencio, take me home today, please. Home? Have you finished your examination? Yes, I want to go home. Okay, I'll be there in an hour. While Martina was in the hospital, Florencio built a house and furnished it to make Martina as comfortable as possible. Martina knew nothing about it, it was a surprise. So when Florencio picked up his wife and drove her in a different direction, she was very surprised. Honey, where are we going? Home. Is it just me, or are you going in the wrong direction? Marty, do you have any patience? Florencio smiled. Patience? You know I've never been patient, Martina smiled back. During this year, she calmed down a little and got used to her new situation. She was almost the same Martina, except she couldn't walk. Sometimes she moved around with the help of a walker, but not much at all, her legs got tired very quickly. They pulled up to the gate, which began to open automatically. Martina looked at her husband in surprise, but said nothing. The car drove into the yard. The yard was large, with a lawn and a small garden. There was a swimming pool and a gazebo. It was a one-story house, but it was very big. Florencio helped his wife to get out of the car, put her in the wheelchair, and took her on a tour of their new home together. Look, here is our big living room, here is the kitchen, there is the toilet and the bathroom next to it, Florencio said. This is our bedroom, next to the guest bedroom. And what about this door? Martina pointed in there. That's your office. I thought you might want to continue your work, you'd be comfortable there. The office was perfectly equipped for Martina. She smiled. You're the best, thank you so much. Yes, I definitely want to get back to work. They left the office. What's in there? There's the maid's room. Florencio noticed Martina's displeased look. Wait, don't be angry and nervous. I know you will devote all your time to work. You just won't have time for cooking, laundry, and cleaning. That's why I've decided we're going to hire a housekeeper. It's not a big deal. Okay, but I'd like to find the person for this position myself. Well, no problem, but I've already found a woman. Her name is Blanca. Please, talk to her first. Okay, Martina reluctantly agreed. How old is she? 52, Florencio laughed. Are you jealous? You never know what can happen. I don't need any pretty girls in my house, Martina said. Martina didn't know that Florencio found not just a housekeeper but a woman with a medical background who had experience in nursing the disabled, but he strictly forbade Blanca to mention that. Life began to flow in a new direction. Florencio went to the office, Martina worked from home, and Blanca took care of all the household chores. Martina liked Blanca. Blanca was simple, kind, and very pleasant to talk to. Sometimes they could spend hours just chatting in the living room over a cup of tea. Martina told Blanca about her life, starting from the time she came to the orphanage. "But you remember your mother. Didn't you ever want to find her and find out why she did what she did?" Blanca asked. "I wanted to, and then I changed my mind." "Why?" "What would I tell her? That I hated her all my life? That she's a traitor and it's not right to do that to children? What's the point? My life won't roll back and change." "Well, that's true, I know what you mean. If I were you, I probably wouldn't want to see her either. You know, Marty, I'm not a very religious person, but for some reason, I believe there's something out there, a higher court or something, and everyone will get what they deserve." So day after day went by. 6 months have passed since Martina moved to her new home. One morning she woke up and felt very sick. Martina called Blanca. "Shall we call a doctor?" Blanca suggested. "What's the point? They have already done everything they could." "Marty, I'm sorry, but you shouldn't refuse to examine your tumor. Maybe it's benign and you could have just removed it." "Blanca, I'm tired of the surgeries, the procedures, the rehabilitation. I want to live at home, no matter how long I have left." "I understand," Blanca said sadly. She had seen doomed people more than once in her life. A week later, Martina's arms began to fail, and her legs finally stopped working. Martina fell into depression. She stayed in her room all day, refused to eat, and stopped working. Florencio could not bear to watch his wife suffer and began staying late at work more and more often. He said it was because he had a lot of work, but Martina was not stupid and understood the real reason. Blanca looked at the young woman with pain. She knew that Martina had to fight, but she gave up and wasn't even trying to do anything. Every attempt to talk to Martina failed. One day Blanca was returning from shopping. She took a cab to the house and saw a man in his 60s near the gate. He was trying to look behind the fence. Blanca became wary. This is a luxury cottage village, and strangers cannot get here, so she looked sternly at the man and asked, "What do you want?" "Excuse me, do you live here?" "I work here." "Who do you need?" "I'm looking for Martina Castro." "Does she live here?" Blanca was surprised. She knew that was the maiden name of the landlady. "Martina Santoro, Castro is her maiden name. Yes, she lives here." "Why do you need her?" "Excuse me, how long have you worked there? Can we talk?" "But the conversation can take a lot of time. I have no bad intentions." Blanca looked the man over from head to toe. He was well dressed, and he certainly didn't look like a dangerous criminal. Intuitively, Blanca decided that she could trust him, at least listen to him. "All right, let's go inside. The owner is sleeping anyway and won't come out." "Is Martina sick?" "Didn't you know that?" "No." "All right, we'll talk inside." They went into the kitchen. The man waited patiently while Blanca unpacked the groceries and was silent. "Would you like some coffee?" "Yes, with pleasure." Blanca made them coffee and sat down in front of the man. "Well, what is so important and urgent that you want to tell me? What is your name, by the way?" "My name is Daniel Domingo." "Nice to meet you, and I'm Blanca." "So what do you want, Daniel Domingo? Why do you need our Martina? She's not really in the mood for visitors right now." "I am Martina's father," the guest said frankly. Blanca almost dropped her cup of coffee. "Father? Where were you when your daughter was in the orphanage? When she was suffering so much? When she needed her family? Where?" Wait, don't attack me. I found out about her existence 2 months ago." "How is that?" "I'll tell you everything if you're patient." And then you can decide if it's my fault or not. Okay, just be quiet, please. I dated Martina's mother years ago. I loved her very much, but she chose someone else. I didn't have the money she wanted, so she broke up with me. I was very upset, and then I decided to leave town to forget her as soon as possible. It so happened that I ended up going abroad, made some money, and came back to the country, but not to my hometown. I moved to the capital. I got a job in one of the clinics. I didn't mention that I am a rehabilitation therapist. I have a lot of experience. Moreover, I did my internship in different countries. And 2 months ago, my sister, who stayed in my hometown, called me and told me that Martina Castro, Martina's mother, was looking for me. I was very surprised because I didn't hear from her since the day she left me. But my sister told me that she begged me to come. I took a week off and headed to my hometown. Suddenly his expression changed and he looked out the window, hiding the tears in his eyes, and then he continued, "She had cancer, she was dying, and wanted to tell me about her daughter in time. I was shocked when she told me what she had done to her. I was ready to kill her. I asked her, 'Why didn't you find me then and give the baby to me if you didn't want her?' And what did she say?" Blanca asked. She felt very sorry for the man. She could see that he was sincerely worried about his daughter. She said she hadn't even thought about it, but as she was dying she decided to repent to me. She told me what orphanage she took Martina to and when. She said she had the same last name as Monica. She advised me to find her to tell her that she was sorry for what she had done and to ask forgiveness for her broken life. He took a pause again. "Although I don't know how such a thing can be forgiven." "Yes, it's a sad story," Blanca agreed. "What will you do now? Will you tell Martina the truth?" "Of course, that's why I was looking for her. I am not guilty, I knew nothing of her existence. She's an adult and she'll understand that. Do you think she'll be happy to see me?" "I don't know, she doesn't want to see anybody right now." "You didn't tell me what's wrong with her." Blanca told Daniel everything she knew about what had happened. His expression changed a couple of times. He was indignant at the doctor's actions, and he asked questions. When Blanca finished her story, he sighed heavily and asked, "Can I see her?" "Daniel, I think Martina needs to be prepared somehow." At that moment the bell rang from Martina's room. Blanca rushed into the room. "Marty, do you need anything?" Blanca shouted fearfully. "Blanca, call a doctor, I don't feel well." And then Blanca decided to take advantage of the situation. "You know, I broke our agreement, I'm sorry. My brother came to visit me, and he's a recovery therapist. Can I call him first?" "I don't care, go ahead." Blanca ran out and called Daniel Domingo, warning him to call her by her first name. "Why?" Martina's father didn't understand. "You can ask your questions later. We don't have time for that right now. Do you want to help your daughter or not?" "Of course, I do." "Then do what I tell you." Daniel walked into Martina's room. This was not the way he had imagined his meeting with her, but now he had no choice. He walked over to the bed and looked at his only child, who was dying. Her father's heart clenched in pain, but now he had to pull himself together and try to do something to help her. "Tell me, where does it hurt?" "Everywhere." He began to examine Martina. From her reaction, he could identify the trouble spots. "How long have you been like this?" "Exactly like this for about 2 weeks." "I see. Can you move your hands?" "I can." "Do it, please." Martina moved her hands. "Can you lift them?" "I will try." Martina raised her hands, but immediately dropped them helplessly onto the bed. "Your hands go numb, so you can't hold them up, right?" "Yes." "What about your legs? You can't feel them at all, right? Was it like this right after the accident?" Blanca tensed up. What if Martina noticed this and asked how he knew? Blanca decided to come to the aid of her brother. Martina, I told Daniel about the accident. I'm sorry. It's okay, Blanca, it's not a secret, and turning to her father, she answered. At first, I couldn't feel it, and then, after several surgeries, I even tried to walk with a walker. And then they found a tumor in my lumbar spine, and my legs stopped working day by day. Now I can barely control them anymore. Daniel looked at Blanca and then at his daughter in surprise and asked, "So you could walk after the surgeries?" "Yes, that's right, with difficulty, slowly, but I could." "Can I examine your back?" "Yes, sure." Blanca helped her to turn on her side, but Daniel asked her to lie down on her stomach. He spent about 20 minutes examining his daughter's back, applying pressure somewhere, checking for sensitivity, examining the swelling on her lower back, and then suddenly he said, "I can help you. You will walk if you trust me and have patience." Blanca almost collapsed in surprise. Martina turned abruptly on her side. "You see, you can do it without Blanca's help. Listen to me carefully. You need a good course of chiropractic massage, special exercises, some medication, and a lot of patience. And I promise you, you will walk." "I'm sorry, what's your name?" "Daniel Domingo," he answered calmly, not feeling a trick. "And I thought it was Santa Claus," Martina said with obvious mockery. "The doctors made it clear to me that I had no chance of walking. There is no chance of survival either. Why are you making fun of me and giving me false hope? I don't understand." "I wasn't making fun of you in any way. I take responsibility for my words. You can read reviews about me on the website of the clinic in the capital where I work," he said the name of the clinic. Martina looked at the strange man with surprise and tried to decide whether to believe him or not. "So as not to be unsubstantiated, I'm going to do something, and you'll see what happens. Will you trust me?" "Go ahead," Martina said with a challenge. Daniel leaned over and pressed something under Martina's knee. She twitched her leg and laughed. "That tickles." And suddenly she caught herself thinking that she hadn't felt a tickle in a long time, even though the doctors had tickled her many times. "How did you do that?" "Never mind. Do you believe me at least a little bit now?" Father smiled. "A little," Martina smiled back. She liked this man. There was an incredible feeling of warmth coming from him, even from his hands. Blanca and Daniel left the room. "Is it true what you told her?" Blanca asked. "Do you think I could lie to my daughter?" "I don't know. I've never seen you before." "I understand you. I don't trust people too," Daniel Domingo smiled. "I'll be here tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Please inform Martina. I need to buy some medication and something for a massage." "Yes, okay. See you tomorrow." Blanca looked at Daniel gratefully. "And thank you for giving her hope. It's very important. Come on, she's my daughter and I will do everything I can to help her get back to a normal life. It's my duty." He left, and Blanca went back to Martina's room. "Do you think you will be able to help me, Blanca? For some reason, I want to believe him." "Marty, I think if you believe in yourself and help Daniel in every way you can, the two of you will succeed. I'll do my best. I have hope. But let's not say anything to Florencio yet. Okay? I don't want him to find out." "Sure, whatever you say." The next day, Daniel Domingo arrived at 9 o'clock, as promised. After coffee with Martina, they began with a massage, followed by a very short round of exercises. Despite Martina's desire to make quick progress, Daniel strictly forbade her to do anything alone without telling him. "Marty, remember, we need results, not speed. You're not ready for a heavy workout yet, and you won't be ready for it for a long time. You have to do it gradually and correctly, or it might backfire, and we don't want that." "No, of course not," Martina agreed. "Then do exactly what I tell you to do, and as much as I tell you. Do you promise not to do it yourself?" "I promise," Martina smiled. "I'm not my own enemy." "Very well, then. I have a question. Can we practice on weekends? Only on Saturday. My husband is home on Sunday. It's his only day off, and I don't want to tell him about you yet. Okay, here's what we'll do. On Sunday, you'll exercise under Blanca's supervision. I'll write out a plan and ask her to supervise. I think you can keep your husband busy for an hour. Yes, of course. He likes to sleep at lunchtime. He's very tired and often doesn't get enough sleep, so on Sundays he sleeps a lot. That's great. That's what they did. 6 days a week of massage and training with Daniel Domingo, and on Sunday, exercise under Blanca's supervision. There were no results yet, but it had only been 2 weeks. Although Martina could feel that the strength was slowly coming back in her arms and legs, and her mood was improving. But her relationship with Florencio was frustrating. He had been staying late at work more and more often, and today he had stayed the night at the office. Martina cried half the night. She understood Florencio, but she also felt sorry for herself. It turned out that his promise to be there for her failed. Her husband gave up quickly, and that was hurtful. Maybe he's got another woman? A thought popped into Martina's head, and it made her even more upset. The next day, when Daniel arrived, Martina was in no mood, and therefore in no mood to exercise. Her father immediately sensed his daughter's mood and asked quietly, "Are you in pain?" "My heart is in pain," Martina said sadly. The father took it literally and asked frightenedly, "Where exactly does it hurt? Have there been problems with your heart before?" "No, it's not like that, and that's not why it hurts. I think my husband is having an affair." Although I understand him, Martina confessed, unexpectedly to herself. What was unexpected was that Martina had never trusted anyone and never told anyone anything about her life, much less about her relationship with her husband. That's ridiculous. What makes you think that? He didn't come home tonight. That never happened before. Marty, that doesn't prove that he's having an affair. He's just tired. You have to understand, it's not just you, it's him. And that's normal. Don't judge him and don't be angry. I think things will get better with time. Are you just trying to make me feel better, or do you really think so? I'm absolutely sure of it. Do you have a wife? Martina suddenly asked. No, I don't. Do you have children? Yes, a daughter, but I only recently found out about her, and I'm also tormented by it because I'm afraid to tell her that I'm her father. Why is that? Did you ever abandon her? No, I would never abandon my child. It's just that her mother didn't tell me she was pregnant, so she broke up with me. And I left town to forget her. And then, years later, I found out that I had a grown daughter. So tell her. Do you know where she lives? Yes, but I'm afraid. I don't think you should be. You think so? I'm sure. I didn't know my father. I don't even know who he was. But if he knocked on my door right now and said, "Martina, hello, I'm your father," I would be the happiest person on the planet. I got you. He got up from his chair and headed toward the door. Just a minute. Daniel Domingo walked out the door, his heart pounding madly in his temples. I think my blood pressure is 200 over 150 right now, he thought, but firmly decided, I have to act, this is my chance. And he confidently knocked on the door. Yes, he heard his daughter's voice. Daniel opened the door, entered the room, and said, "Martina, hello, I'm your father." Martina looked at him numbly. They looked at each other in silence. Everyone was thinking about something, and no one dared to break the silence. Daniel Domingo waited for some reaction from his daughter, and Martina couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Are you my father?" The tears came pouring out of her eyes. How could that be? Daniel walked over to the bed, pulled up a chair, and sat down next to her to tell the story of his life. When he finished the story, Martina simply said, "Can I hug you?" Of course, I have dreamed of doing that for a long time. You have no idea how glad I am to find you. I wanted to find my mother, but then I changed my mind. But I couldn't even dream of having such a wonderful father. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening and accepting me. I was really worried about how you would react. I don't forgive betrayal, but you didn't betray me, you didn't know about me. They talked for a long time, sharing stories of their lives before this meeting. Martina proudly listened to her father's story of his successes and accomplishments. Her father listened with tears in his eyes to his daughter's life story. They had much to talk about and no one interrupted them. They skipped exercises that day for a good reason. The father said it was okay, but the massage could not be rescheduled. Martina followed all her father's recommendations diligently. Now she did not doubt that she would recover because she was being treated by the best doctor who was really interested in her recovery. From then on, the sessions took much longer. Father and daughter couldn't stop talking. They even called each other in the evenings and had long conversations by phone. Martina promised to tell her husband later so that the father could move into the house, so it would be easier and more comfortable for everyone. But for now, Martina didn't know how to tell Florencio about this wonderful encounter. By the time he came home, Martina was already asleep. All these activities were very exhausting, and she usually fell asleep at 10 p.m. Her father said this was very good because sleep was the best medicine for her body. It went on like that for almost a month. Today Florencio stayed late at work again. He didn't want to go home. He even stopped a few times on the way and just stared into nowhere. Lately, Martina had been falling asleep early. Perhaps she felt very bad. Her strength is running out since she's sleeping so much, he thought, not knowing the real reason. Florencio drove up to the house at about 11 p.m. The lights were only on in the living room, which meant that everyone was asleep. Blanca always went to bed right after Martina so she could get up early to do her chores. He walked into the living room and heard Martina talking to someone. Very strange, why isn't she asleep? And who could be visiting us at night? Florencio wondered. He moved closer to the door and began to listen. I'm very grateful to you, Martina was saying to someone. I don't know how I would have managed without you. You came into my life just in time. Stop thanking me. I love you and I'm doing everything I can to make you feel good, a male voice answered on the phone. A video call, Florencio guessed. What time are you coming tomorrow? The usual time? Martina asked. No, darling, tomorrow I have to buy something for you, and then I'll be there. Maybe by 10 o'clock or 11:30. I'll call you or Blanca when I get there. Now go to sleep, it's late. Have a good night. Kisses. I love you. Good night, Martina said calmly, and Florencio felt a shiver on his skin. I love you too, see you tomorrow, the male voice answered. Florencio was furious. So his wife had met someone at the hospital and was now having an affair. So maybe she's pretending to be sick to avoid sleeping with her husband? And even Blanca knows. What an idiot he is. He went to the bar in the living room and poured himself some wine. Florencio drank alcohol very rarely, so a couple of glasses of wine were more than enough to relax him. Thoughts were mixed up in his head. He didn't understand how could Marty cheat on him, moreover in such a condition. He poured a second glass, drank it in a gulp, and went to his wife's bedroom. Martina was asleep. Should I wake her up or not? He thought. Florencio looked at his wife more closely, not understanding what was wrong. Something was wrong, something confused Florencio about Martina's body position. Suddenly it hit him. Martina's right arm lay above her head on the pillow. But that can't be. She can't lift her arms. So she lied to me after all, it's a brazen lie. He was angry, very angry. And, unable to think of anything else, he decided not to go to work tomorrow, or rather, to pretend that he went, and then come home unexpectedly after 10 o'clock. I wonder what she will tell me when I catch them red-handed, Florencio gloated. In the morning, he left for work at 8. He warned Blanca that he would be late. There was no need to cook dinner for him. Blanca nodded and went into the kitchen. Florencio looked angrily at the nurse. She knows everything. She's probably laughing at me, Florencio said to himself and became even angrier. Martina woke up at 9. She had a light breakfast with Blanca and waited for Daniel. Blanca was a bit mysterious today. Blanca, are you all right? Martina asked. Yes, everything is fine. Why do you ask? Blanca blushed a little. I don't know, you don't seem to be your usual self today. No, it's nothing special, I'm the same as usual, Blanca said at first, and then she sat down on a chair and suddenly confessed, Marty, I like your father very much. I am so shy and nervous when I see him. Well, that's great. What's wrong with that? Martina was delighted. What if he has someone else? I don't want to interfere in someone else's family. I'll find out, Martina winked and smiled. Thank you, but don't tell him anything please, Blanca became nervous. Oh, come on, I won't tell him anything, it's a woman's solidarity, Martina smiled again. She was in a good mood. The results of the exercises with her father were impressive. Martina could already stand on her feet and even take a few steps with the help of a walker. Yes, running was still very far away, and maybe she will never be able to run at all, but it was better than nothing, and her hands were almost no longer numb. Daniel Domingo called, Marty, hi, I'll be there in 10 minutes. Hi, we're waiting for you, Martina said. She looked at Blanca, who blushed and smiled. We? Who we? The father was surprised. Well, me and my limbs, Martina replied. Ah, good. The father came into the living room, said hello to Blanca, kissed Martina, and took her into the room for exercise. Blanca was cooking dinner and didn't even hear Florencio arrive. Blanca, is Martina in her room? She heard her boss's loud voice and suddenly dropped a plate on the floor. It shattered to pieces. Florencio, why are you here? Blanca asked the first thing that came into her head. Can I come home in the afternoon? Florencio was surprised. Are you hiding something from me? No, I was just asking. Blanca was neither dead nor alive. She didn't know what to do, how to warn Martina. She saw that Florencio was very angry and wouldn't care who was there and why. And Daniel Domingo was just giving Martina a massage. It's scary to imagine what Florencio will think when he sees some man giving his wife a massage in the bedroom. What a nightmare. I have to warn them somehow, thought Blanca. Would you like some coffee? Are you kidding? Do you think I came home for you to make me coffee? I said, where's my wife? Is she in her room or has she run out on a date already? What are you talking about? What date? Marty's home. But you must have got it all wrong, Blanca said to Florencio's back. She followed him, to help somehow if anything. But Florencio didn't hear anything anymore. Anger and even rage seized him. He had been used to defending what belonged to him, including his Martina, since he was a child. He opened the door abruptly and saw a scene that made him feel sick. Florencio grabbed his opponent by the shoulder, pulled him sharply toward him, and punched him in the face. Daniel wasn't ready for that and fell from the blow onto the bed. Florencio wanted to pick him up and hit him again, but Martina jumped up from the bed covering herself with a blanket and shouted, "Don't touch him, that's my father." Florencio felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured on his head. Who? My father. Martina repeated. What the hell are you doing? Who is your father? What father? Where did he come from? Florencio asked one question after another. If you calm down, I will explain everything to you. Only now did Florencio notice that Martina was standing on the floor without any help. Do you walk? Just a little. If you don't hurt my father, I'll walk much better. I don't understand anything, Florencio said faintly, realizing that he had done something stupid. Dad, Blanca, please go have some coffee, we need to talk, Martina said. She leaned toward her father. Are you all right? Fine, my teeth seem to be in place, Daniel Domingo smiled. You didn't tell me your husband was so jealous. I'm sorry, I didn't know that could happen. Daniel and Blanca left the room. Martina sat down on the edge of the bed and gestured for her husband to sit down beside her. She told him the story of meeting her father from the first time he came to the house, that he was a doctor, and that he was helping Martina to recover. Why didn't you tell me about it before? Florencio was confused. I wanted to surprise you. Also, I didn't know what the result of the treatment would be, and I didn't want to give false hope. And what if I had beaten him harder? Did you think about it? How was I supposed to know that you had something like that on your mind? And how did you even know about it? Last night when I came, I heard you confessing your love to someone. Florencio lowered his head. What was I supposed to think? And you immediately decided that I had a lover? In my condition? Seriously? You and I once promised not to lie to each other and not to hide anything. She thought for a second. Yes, I didn't have to hide it from you, but I had no idea you'd think I was cheating on you. It doesn't matter what I thought, as long as I was wrong. Please forgive me, Florencio said guiltily. I'm an idiot, but I have an excuse. I'm an idiot in love. Will you forgive me? Of course, but you have to apologize to Daddy, too. Of course, I will. What's your father's name? Daniel Domingo. Okay, let's go and apologize. Well, let's go, it's too much for me for now, let's ride, Martina smiled. She got into the wheelchair, and Florencio took his wife into the living room. Daniel and Blanca were sitting on the couch drinking coffee. Blanca immediately jumped up at the sight of her bosses. Please don't get up. It's okay, Florencio said, and then he turned to his father-in-law. Daniel Domingo, forgive me, for God's sake. I didn't mean for our first meeting to happen this way. But I didn't know anything about you, and I couldn't imagine that you could be Martina's father. Come on, it's all right. All resentments will be forgotten before the wedding, he smiled. Before the wedding? Martina wondered. Whose wedding? Mine, of course, mine. I hope you're not going to get a divorce because of me, Daniel smiled. I've never been married, you know. Interesting, Martina smiled enigmatically. I hope you'll invite us. Of course, if you promise not to fight, said father, and everyone laughed. Will you invite me? Blanca asked sadly and quietly. I will invite you too, Daniel smiled and changed the subject. Martina, we have to continue the massage, and we haven't done any exercises today yet. Yes, Dad, of course, I'll see Florencio off and go back to the room while you finish your coffee. Florencio left for work, and Martina and her father went back to exercise. After all the procedures, Daniel Domingo left. In the evening, Martina decided to talk to her husband about her father staying at their house. She came into the kitchen, where it smelled really good. Blanca, are you cooking something magical? I'm just drooling, it smells so good. Blanca stood with her back to the hostess and answered without turning around, cooking your favorite meat. Martina heard Blanca's voice tremble. Blanca, look at me, please, she asked. I'm sorry, I can't. Don't make me drive all the way across the kitchen to you. Blanca turned, and Martina saw that she was crying. What happened? What's the matter? Don't you understand? Your father's getting married. For a moment I thought he liked me. Well, I think your tears are premature. You shouldn't get upset. When do I get upset? When he brings me an invitation. Blanca, it's gonna be fine. I think he was just joking about the wedding, Martina tried to reassure her. I don't think so. Well, feed me, or I'll start biting the table, Martina changed the topic. She persuaded Blanca to join her for lunch. "It's such a nice day today, let's have a glass of wine," Martina suggested. "Oh, I don't drink at work," Blanca refused. "Blanca, what work are you talking about? You live with us, you help us, and you don't even have days off. You need to relax sometimes. Just one glass." "Okay, just one." She poured the wine and sat down next to Martina. At that moment, the doorbell rang. "Who can it be?" Blanca was surprised. "I am not expecting anyone." Blanca went to open the door. Daniel Domingo was standing on the threshold with a huge bouquet of roses. "Dear Blanca, I beg you to be my wife." He handed her the flowers and a small box with a ring. Blanca took the box and asked, "Is this for me?" Tears flowed down her cheeks. The ring was very beautiful. Blanca took it out of the box and put it on her finger. "Is that a yes?" "Of course, it is. But I want to ask you a favor." "May I?" Daniel asked hesitantly. "Of course. Can we have the wedding when Martina can walk? It's literally a couple of months." "Oh, no problem at all. Sure, let's wait." Blanca immediately agreed. "Hey, future honeymooners, stop talking. Actually, I have a bottle of good wine here." "So you did it on purpose, didn't you?" Blanca said to Martina. "Did you know everything?" "Of course, he is my father." Martina smiled. "All right, you guys go ahead and celebrate, and I'll have some rest in my room." 2 months later, Martina was walking around the house without help, slowly, but without a walker, only with a cane. Daniel Domingo moved into his daughter's house and now spent even more time with his future wife. One evening, the men were in the gazebo talking. At this time, Florencio was concerned about one question: how was it possible that the doctors had given up and Daniel had brought his wife back to life? "You see, Florencio, the doctors decided that Martina had a tumor on her spine. And it wasn't a tumor, it was an intervertebral hernia. If it's not too late, it can be removed with manual therapy. If the situation is really bad, surgery can help. It's a common medical mistake. Marty just has a lot of musculoskeletal problems, so they came to this conclusion. It happens. I don't know what we would do without you." Florencio said. "If it hadn't been for you." "Okay, well, stop thanking me. I did what I had to do. She's my daughter, and I am very guilty, even though I'm not. The main thing is that it all worked out together with her. I thought it would take more time, but Martina did great. Thanks to her efforts, the process went faster. Florencio, I have a suggestion for you. I understand that we have to discuss it with our women, but I wanted to talk to you first." "Intriguing. What happened?" Florencio was interested. "No, nothing happened. I just wanted to suggest building a bigger house. I'll sell my apartment in the capital. That's more than enough to expand. Martina can't do without Blanca's help anyway, and I'll be around for support. And there's not much room for us in this house. I don't mind, but let's ask the women." The men returned to the house. Blanca and Martina were sitting on the couch in the living room, emotionally discussing something. It turned out that they were talking about an upcoming event, a wedding. Blanca didn't want a big party, and Martina persuaded her to agree. "Blanca, I really want you to have a fancy event. Father helped me get back on my feet, and you're an indispensable person to me. Is there anything I can do for you in return?" "Hey!" Florencio said indignantly. "Why is it only you? I'm a part of it too." "Blanca," Daniel intervened, "I think it is better to agree. Martina won't give up anyway." "All right," Blanca agreed, "you talked me into it. And we also want to discuss something with you," Dad began, "and we can't do it without you." "Let's discuss it now," Martina said cheerfully. She had changed a lot lately. She was not just cheerful, she was glowing from the inside. "Father suggested building one big house for all of us. A room for each of us, a couple of guest bedrooms, a kitchen, a living room, and your office. What do you say? Martina looked at her husband and father with feigned resentment. Is something wrong? Florencio tensed. He thought that his wife didn't like the idea. Wrong, Martina answered. When did you want to start building? I'm ready to start any day, even tomorrow. Florencio answered, if there are no objections. All right, build it. But in 8 months you will rebuild it, Martina said calmly and winked at Blanca, who already knew everything. I don't understand, why rebuild? Florencio was genuinely surprised. Well, because there isn't a baby's room among the ones you listed, Martina smiled. Florencio incomprehensibly looked at his wife and then at his father-in-law and shrugged. Do you understand anything, Daniel? I think I do. In 8 months I will be a grandfather and you will be a father. He shouted joyfully. Florencio had tears in his eyes. Marty, is it true? Is it really true? Could there be a mistake? Yes, I saw a doctor yesterday, Martina smiled. Florencio jumped up and hugged his wife. Amazing news! You're the best. Oh, wait, are you allowed to give birth on your own? Florencio got scared. I think a C-section might be necessary, but it's not a problem, Daniel Domingo intervened. Florencio was in a state of shock and could not believe what was happening. 6 months ago, he thought his happy family life was over and nothing good would ever happen in his life again, but when his father-in-law showed up, everything changed abruptly. So abruptly that he didn't have time to absorb the information. A week later, Daniel and Blanca got married. The wedding ceremony was in the same restaurant as Florencio and Martina. They did not invite many guests and celebrated in a small circle. Florencio and Martina covered all the expenses of the event, and their wedding gift to the newlyweds was a romantic trip. Blanca, who had never been anywhere except her hometown, almost fell off her chair. Wow! But it must be so expensive. You've paid for everything yourself, I can't accept it. You're going to need a lot of energy soon because a baby takes up all your time, Florencio laughed. While the newlyweds were away, Martina and Florencio designed a project for their new big house, but they decided not to start building until Daniel and Blanca had approved it. Upon their return, the project was approved and started. The house was finished just in time for the birth of the baby, but they decided to move in when the big event happened. In due time, Martina gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. They named her Esperanza because it was hope that helped them endure everything that had happened to them.
If you're enjoying it as well, leave a like and subscribe.